Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our podcast. It's Brother Chris and Brother Justin, and we're kind of returning today to some of our earlier ideas of talking about the paranormal, science, religion, things like that. And we're really going to look at some of the very simple basics of demonology. We are not experts in this, but we do have a lot of background now, and a lot of the exorcists, the official exorcists throughout the United States and the world have published a lot of books, videos, podcasts, all kinds of things. So we are drawing on them for our information and to kind of help you understand what the church's real teaching about these things are, because we live in this so saturated paranormal world right now. So
yeah, I wanted to... And we've got CVs that overlap.
Right, exactly.
You know, I've got a theology master's, and you got a master's in Catholic spirituality?
Spirituality, yeah.
All right.
So Quinn, let's start with Quinn today. When you hear the word demon, what do you think of?
I think of like the red, I think of Will Ferrell in that demon sketch on SNL.
Oh, where he's the devil?
Where he's the devil.
Wait, Garth Brooks?
Yes.
Really? It's a Fender. Yeah, I like that one too.
But I also think of like the scary ones where they talk to you and they tell you but then there's also they whisper in your ear and tell you.
Yeah.
So it's a range of, that's what I think of demons. Mainly Garth Brooks and
First thing that comes to mind for me is like in the 2000s, like the early 2000s to like the mid 2010s, there was just a ton of movies where it was like, oh, it's a demon, and what was that? What's that one? Oh my goodness. It escapes me the name, but it's like a whole franchise of movies. Conjuring is one of them.
Yeah.
That's more of like a haunted house.
Yeah. Although those are
Insidious.
I was thinking, and then there's Stigmata with Gabriel Byrne, and the Days with Schwarzenegger. There's all kinds of those.
Paranormal Activity. Which is like...
I feel like those are more like possessions, though.
Well, they were
Paranormal
Antichrist,
Activity.
some of them, though. Yeah.
Paranormal Activity is one of those ones where they like... I think... You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they have like a psychic come and tell them which demon, or that it is a demon, right. And it's basically like the worst demon of all time because it likes to make footprints in the house and like rip up pictures, and that's about it.
That's like speaking of The Conjuring, Ed and Lorraine Warren, really were Catholic. Orthodox Catholic exorcists and things. That would be great someday if we can go to their house and look at downstairs, see their museum of all their weird objects.
You know what the doll was initially?
It was actually a Raggedy Ann.
It's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
It wasn't that weird looking.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay.
Yeah.
You look at that doll in the movies and you're like, of course that thing is possessed. You know what I mean? But Raggedy Ann is so I don't know, it's so vintagey and antique.
Yeah, that's like...
But so common that's scarier to me. They should have just left it as Raggedy Ann. Maybe there are licensing issues.
Maybe, yeah. Well, getting back to our stuff...
Leaving the Raggedy Ann licensing discussion for later.
Yeah. Raggedy Ann doesn't want their doll plastered as like the demonic face of dolls.
They'd sell more dolls. Probably.
So, let's start real basic. In the scriptures, the Old Testament and the New Testament kind of follow a similar pattern. On the one hand, they'll list all these different creatures, seraphim, cherubim, ophanim, all these things. But then they generally have like sort of a generic word they use for anything preternatural, and that's Elohim. We think of it's used for God, but it's also used for the gods who are angels. It's even used for a ghost when Samuel is conjured up by the witch of Endor, or whatever happens there. The Lord allows it.
I didn't know about that one.
It's
I didn't know about that.
The word there is I see a god, an Elohim rising from the earth. So basically anything that was preternatural is just Elohim. And the New Testament kind of does the same thing. It has principalities, powers, it has these degrees, but then generically it just uses the term angel. To kind of refer to almost any of these different things. Now, here is one weird thing that the church has never fully gotten into. Clearly, some demons are the fallen angels who followed Nahash, the serpent, into rebellion. But at least in the larger Jewish community prior and leading up into the time of the New Testament, there was also the idea that the Nephilim, which we won't get too deep into tonight, I think, but the Nephilim, when they were destroyed, their human part was destroyed, their bodies, but their angelic souls remained in this world as like demons, and that's why they want to inhabit bodies.
We're going to have to do a whole thing on Nephilim.
Yeah,
because I've heard how you've described it before, and I've been taught something else.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Yeah. Augustine had an idea, a lot of different. Yeah. But so demon interaction. Let's jump right to how do demons interact. Well, we'll actually get to the extraordinary ways first. The ordinary way is temptation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for this, I'm just going to give credit where it's due. Father Vincent Lampert, if you haven't heard of him or seen him, he has an excellent book. He's all over YouTube. If you look up Vincent Lampert or Catholic Exorcist, he's one of the most vocal as far as going out and talking about it. And
which one was he? Is he up in Northern California? Is that the one? Is that the guy, or is this a different guy?
No, I don't think so. There's
a guy they based the rite off
of? No, it's not him. That's not him. That's Gary.
That's right.
Father Gary something.
Okay.
But Father Lampert, in his book, he talks about in what way do the demons interact with us? And he first starts by saying, it's kind of not all that exciting. He says, if you're a Catholic and you actually live out your faith authentically, he said, the reality is you're pretty much immune from most of what the demons can really do to you, except for the normal temptations and such. However, for people who aren't living their faith, who aren't following that way, or without any faith at all whatsoever, they become really targets of what he can do. And Father Lampert gives 8 things that we need to be aware of, because these are things by which a demon can gain access to us. And rather than just reading them off, why don't we just go again? We'll start with Quinn, then I'll ask Justin. Quinn, give me one of the 8 ways you think demons can, not temptation, but the way a demon can actually become more of a foothold on us, or a handhold on us.
Would it be more like Ouija board, like those kinds of tarot card readings, Ouija boards?
Yes.
That kind
That's actually number 1. If we were playing Family Feud, you'd have to...
Survey says.
It says ties to the occult. The occult meaning secret knowledge, especially the future. Palm reading, mediums, tarot cards, Ouija board, astrology, psychics, crystals, magic, witchcraft, all of that kind of stuff. All of these are condemned practices. They are all acts of idolatry. And I have to admit, until I started listening to some of these exorcists who are unanimous on this issue, specifically Ouija boards, I used to think, Parker Brothers game. I mean, really? How really terrifying can it be?
Parker Brothers is a very demonic organization, Chris.
But I guess
we've lost a sponsor.
Whether it's actually the Ouija board or just the attitude maybe of the people and what they're wanting to do. I think that's what comes through. Yeah. But that's one. So occult, that's right. The occult is the obvious kind of big one a lot of people see.
Do you ever use a Ouija board?
Nope. I'm terrified, I have to admit, even when I didn't think they were real, just to be safe. And I will tell one quick story. When I was a freshman in college, so living in the dorms, and there was a Catholic girl named Stacy who lived, you had the common room, guys on this side, women on this side, and we all knew each other because we were on the same floor. And one day, a group of the girls were doing a Ouija board, and guys, in someone's room, and we went over, and she was really freaked out. She was just standing there, and they kept wanting to get her to play. And of course, she asked like the one, how am I going to die or whatever. And the girl, it went through. She wasn't even touching the board. And the girl doing it said, by ice. And she really freaked out. And we had to actually call eventually the campus, the Catholic chaplain, because when she was like 18 at that time. When she had been 12 or 13, she had had a party with one. They asked the same question. She got the same answer.
Oh.
All those years. So it freaked her out. So the priest told her, though, the devil can't determine anything. And even if he's told you the same answer twice, don't worry about that. But that was a pretty freaky thing.
Yeah. The only time that I played it was once as like a kid, because I didn't have any of the red flags in place yet,
Right.
for what it was. It was just like a dumb thing. And it was so lame because it wasn't even the board. It was, like old school DOS computers where they would come with like a pack of trial games.
Yeah.
So at my friend's house, we installed the trial game disc, and one of them was like a little Ouija board thing where it didn't even look cool. It was like just letters, and then you would move the mouse and like click. And we were definitely moving it. Yeah, I should still probably, that was 20 something years ago. I should probably confess that.
So what's another one, Justin? What else do you think is a way that they make their way into?
Just because this is, it's like an old school suggestion, but I know it's true, even though it's going to make me sound like a total prude. But media, like entertainment kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So remember the big thing with Harry Potter back when the movies were and the books were like at the height of popularity.
Yeah.
There were all these groups that were like, no, it's witchcraft and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, on the one hand, it's the subject matter is about magic and quote witches and wizards and whatever.
Right.
But you get magic, witches and wizards in Narnia, and you get that in Tolkien as well. So it's not so much the subject matter, but just like with the Ouija board, like you were saying, I think it's the attitude of the people who ingest the media. I think the demons can find a way in through that, because I do know people that have gotten into Wicca and things like that because they liked Harry Potter first,
right?
And I know a lot of people, most people, who have read Harry Potter and they're just fine.
Yeah.
Because just as, J.K. Rowling even said that the foundation for that story was the Gospels. And you can kind of tell if you read through the story that that's the case. But, I think that the veneer that's painted over it, that aesthetic it's one of those things where people can get into the aesthetic more than the actual substance of the story.
Yeah.
And then that's what the demons latch onto,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is one. Entertainment is what Lampert calls it. He says a lot of things isolate us and break down our real community. And so he says a lot of our entertainment results in us living according to 3 demonic principles. You may do whatever you wish. No one has the right to ever command you, and you determine everything about yourself. He said if you look at most of the movies today, evil is presented as good. God and the church are viewed as weak, if not ineffectual. Witchcraft is presented as a form of real power. Evil glorified, and Satan is often presented as all-powerful or kind of a exciting kind of subject.
Getting to determine reality for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what magic is, right?
That doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
So,
Right.
Quinn, got another one you can think of? What else?
And you said besides like sin, right?
No, you could say that one.
Yeah, I think sin.
Okay. That's right.
Sin!
A life of habitual sin. In fact, he says that's the most common way by most people opening themselves up to the devil. And he says something, at least for Catholics, that's important. And even for non-Catholics, if you're at least Christian, it just gives you thought to ponder. He said, confession, the sacrament of confession, is more powerful than any exorcism. If a person would do that regularly, they're going to keep themselves free of the influence that the demons can possess.
That's good to know.
An exorcism is almost like an after effect. Like now you've messed it up so badly by not doing confession and living the life that now we have to try to do something else.
It's like emergency surgery.
Right. And he points out, and he's not the only one. I've also heard it from Father Stephen Rossetti in his podcast, and someone else. I
Father
forget.
Stephen Rossetti.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him.
Oh, he's really good. He has the St. Michael Center.
Oh, okay.
And he does deliverance sessions online, everything really good.
Oh, snap.
But both of them said the same thing. They said, if a person comes to you, if they don't have any skin in the game, they can't help them. He says people come to them as if they're magicians, and they're like, I've got this problem, I want you to excise the demon. And they'll say, okay, we can do that, but you have to start by going to confession again, returning to the sacraments, doing prayer. And a lot of the people are kind of like, well, can't you just heal me? And sort of this idea, I want to keep living my life, but I'm not. And they're saying, we can't help you. Like, we can't help you if you're
such
not
the mentality.
willing to go forward and do stuff.
That's such a modern mentality, isn't it?
Yep.
Just give me the pill to make it all better. And it's like, spiritually speaking too, I can do whatever I want. Just say the magic words and the effects will go away. You know? Yeah, that's dangerous.
Here's one that's just weird, so I'll bring this one up because it is weird. There's a couple that are strange, and even as a Catholic who believes in these ideas, it's weird sometimes. Number 3 he mentions is, well, this would be number 4 on our thing. He says are curses. And what is a curse? Well, he says, just as we have power by our words to bless people, to help them, a curse is really commending something to the devil or the evil spirit. And to curse someone is to seek preternatural demonic assistance in perpetrating harm upon someone. However, he points out they're only effective if the target, 2 things, if they have no faith or very weak faith, number 1, and 2, it's justified in some way. In other words, it may not be that it's justified in the sense of God, but the person has done something bad, they're unrepentant of it, therefore there's this curse that goes on it. And so he talks about the fact that that is connected to something else which I didn't even know really existed that much, demonic dedication. Now, what is that? That's when a child under the age of reason, which the church defines as 7 years, is dedicated by an adult who has spiritual authority over them.
Whoa.
A parent, a grandparent, someone like that. And they're literally dedicated to Satan, almost in the similar way that a child is dedicated to God and baptized and such. And since they cannot bring this union upon themselves, an adult does it for them. So there are groups out there. I'm sure they're small, but there are real groups out there, even though it sounds kind of science fiction-y, that are occultic groups that live this kind of relationship and stuff. So
I don't think it's all too out there anymore.
Yeah, maybe not. It's,
in the era of 2022,
Yeah, that people might accidentally. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe accidentally dedicate a kid to.
I could kind of see that.
Rossetti's really good. I do recommend his podcast or his website. It's called the St. Michael Center, and he does a blog that comes out about twice a week, and he only tells real stories. This is what happened, and he talked about a girl who. This is actually one of the other ones. Invitation, when a person actually invites it into them. Now, some do it out of a misguided sense of charity, right? They're like, I'm going to ask the demon to leave this person because I can handle it. Nope. Like, you really can't. More often, though, others purposely do so in order to, they hope, get some kind of power out of it. Right.
Yeah, I had so
now he tells us, he says, these exorcisms, bar none, are the longest lasting. Because the person has willfully, purposely done it, even once they have repented, in a sense, the demon holds a claim over them for a while. That takes a while for that to be released, and they need to really be restored. But it's a real reality that people, some do give themselves to this. There's actually a psychologist, a famous psychologist. His last name is Gallagher, and I cannot remember the name of his book. Maybe we'll look at and can tell you at another time, but he's one of the psychologists who's become one of them used in exorcisms by the Catholic Church. And he talks about the fact that he didn't believe any of this stuff, but he agreed at first to be part of it just because they needed someone and he thought it would be interesting, until he encountered a girl who he could only say were psychic, truly weird psychic powers, who figured out where he lived, who kind of did all kinds of stuff with his animals and crazy things.
Whoa.
So that there was some real meat, to what some of these people have. A lot of them are frauds. A lot of them are just misguided or ignorant. But every once in a while, there's someone who really has something.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was back when I was doing, a long time ago, when I was volunteering in youth ministry, there was a young gent who showed up one day. And I don't remember what caused him to kind of show up and try out our youth group, but he kind of confessed to us that he was really into spiritualism, but it was like the channeling the demonic kind of spiritualism. Mm-hmm. And we kind of asked him, like, whoa, wait a second, why are you into that? And he said, because like I invite this stuff into my life, and then they get things to happen for me. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Yeah. 2
more that we'll just go through real quick. Number 5 is abuse. Now, how does that work? Well, when a person is abused, it results in them having emotional wounds and trauma. And 2 ways then that trauma can develop into something that's a place for a demon. One is the anger is never dealt with, and out of that anger and hatred that arises, the demons find an entryway in, even though the person himself was the victim. By that unforgiveness, that hardness of heart that they find themselves in. Or, and this is becoming more common, I hear it all the time on different podcasts about different paranormal stuff, or the person will go to seek help from the wrong person. Right? They're going to go to a faith healer, a psychic, a witch, rather than a priest or a Christian minister. And they're only going to end up aggravating the situation of demonic entrance and such, even though they might think that they're okay. And then the final one, which I thought this one was interesting, he said broken relationships. Broken relationships can be an opening based solely on how a person deals with it. Are we being forgiving? Are we being vindictive? Has it filled us with bitterness, anger, hatred, and revenge? He says, after being freed from the possession of 2,000 demons, a legion, right? We are legion. The Gerasene demoniac asked Jesus to follow him, but the Lord said no. Why would Jesus say no? Don't follow me. Instead, he sent him back home. And the reason being, Father Lampert said, is Christ desired that the healed man go back and be reunited with his family in order to rejoin them in their life again. Brokenness within the family, especially handled poorly, is a catalyst for demonic activity. And he tells us to always seek forgiveness. But otherwise, we look to seeing you next time. God bless and cheers.